As you delve deeper into the ruins of the ancient fortress, you are confronted by a tribe of ferocious kobolds.
Kobolds?
Kobolds, you say? Surely these are homebrew kobolds, far more powerful than the standard variety kobold. I suggest we be wary.
Oh goody! It's been a long time since we fought kobolds. I'm really excited to see what they can do now that we're level 16.
Well, they're actually just normal kobolds.
Holy crap! Really?
Yeah, no kidding. We're practically a tier 4 adventuring party. And you're throwing normal kobolds at us?
But what if they're Tucker's kobolds?
Tucker's kobolds. I don't know what those are, but they sound dangerous.
Ah, yes. Tucker's kobolds. A legend of the internet. Without any details whatsoever. Despite these kobolds' dubious veracity, I suggest we prepare ourselves for... No, they're just normal kobolds. Now, did you guys go ahead and just kill them now?
Wow, what an idiot! As much as I love the stabby, this sucks!
You see? Now do you all finally believe me?
What?
You were kicked out of our group, that's what.
Yeah, you're not supposed to be here. You're a bad person.
And where is Gary the intern?
Yeah, you better not have harmed Gary the intern.
Don't worry about him. Gary the intern will be perfectly fine, just as long as you let me keep playing D&D with you all.
Oh dear, he's holding Gary hostage. It looks like we're gonna have no choice but to comply with his demands.
Okay, whatever. But what about the kobolds?
Oh, come on! Do I even need to say it?
Welcome to the DM Lair. I'm Luke Hart, and I've been a Dungeon Master since high school. On this channel, I give practical Dungeon Master advice that you can use in your D&D games. Today in the Lair, we'll be discussing how to run high-level D&D games. That is, how you should be looking to adjust your games as you pass out of the low levels and into the higher levels. In my experience, there are two main things that a Dungeon Master should be looking to adjust as their game moves into the higher levels: the story and the power level. And today I'm going to be giving you suggestions gleaned from my experience as a Dungeon Master to how to do both of those things. But first, a quick reminder that I publish lots of completely free Dungeon Master resources over on my website, thedmlair.com. There you can find homebrew traps, puzzles, magic items, NPCs, and even entire D&D adventures. Link below. Okay, and now we get into it. Story adjustments. As your game advances from low level to high level, one of the big things that you'll want to change is the scope of the story and the plot. The Dungeon Master Guide describes tiers of play on pages 36 through 37 to represent this idea of the story and adventures gaining in scope. I'm going to march through the 4 tiers of play and discuss how your story and the scope of the adventures you create for your group should evolve as the game progresses into the higher levels. Now, the first tier of play is levels 1 through 4, where you are local heroes. The PCs don't have a whole lot of power yet, or magic, or influence, or fame, or any of that. So, therefore, the adventures should be small in scope. They should be local and against weaker monsters. They should be doing things like helping out a small village, delving into the sewers to take care of some monsters like kobolds that are bothering the populace, or, catching rats. There shouldn't be anything at all epic at this point. You're just doing basic little adventures, very small in scope, nothing terrifying or extreme. Now, the second tier of play is levels 5 through 10, where your PCs are considered heroes of the realm. Your PCs are going to get access to a lot more power, and they're going to have good magic spells like Fireball, and magic items, political influence, and most of the people in the local area are going to know who they are. At this point, the adventures you make should start to be things of much higher importance, and the scope should include bigger and more powerful monsters. Not necessarily bigger, but, bigger as in terrifying, powerful, deadly. Yeah, you got it. And the stakes should be higher. If the PCs fail, it's not just that the innkeeper continues to have rats in his cellar. No, if the PCs fail, entire towns might get wiped out, or giants annex an entire region and make it their vassal. Here are some examples of adventures PCs might go on at this level. You might have rampaging orcs, which are evil, by the way. that are laying waste to farmhouses outside a major city. You could have Yuan Ti trying to reestablish their empire from the heart of a swamp. Or you could have demons gaining a foothold on the plain from the ruins of a desolated fortress. Desolated? Is desolated a word? Desolate fortress. Let's go with that. All right, levels 11 through 16 are higher levels. And the PCs, the characters are known here as Masters of the Realm. Here, your PCs are going to have access to some of the most powerful spells, magic items, and class abilities. They're going to start to get great political influence from all of the adventures they've been going on, all of the people that they're helping, all of the rulers and whatnot that are thankful to them. All of this gives them political influence. And most people across the world may have heard of them at this point. There are few other adventuring parties that are this powerful. Your players' PCs are now the big kahunas, and even kings and queens show them respect and honor. Now, if you're running a political campaign, this is certainly the point that your PCs move up from dealing with small politics like those of shopkeepers or merchants to dealing with politics on a national or regional level. When you create adventures at this tier, you should have the fate of an entire nation or even perhaps the world depend on them. So you're going to increase the scope of failure. At this tier, the adventures you create might start to take the PCs to entirely different planes of existence too. For instance, they defeated the demons in the ruined fortress, the desolate fortress, while at tier 2, but now at tier 3, they need to go to the abyss itself and confront the Baler who was commanding them. Major cities should now depend on them. Instead of a small town like Rassalantar asking for aid, the mighty city of Waterdeep commissions them to end the threat of Lord Paxton and his giant armies. Also, by the time you get to this tier, you should be creating epic and awesome villains that your players have to confront. And you should be striving to create boss battles that are off the chains. I have 2 videos on creating awesome boss battles that you should check out. Link below. All right. Levels 17 through 20. This tier is known as Masters of the World. Your players' characters are masters of the world. Not literal masters, it's just terminology, folks. The PCs are basically the superheroes of legend at this point. They have access to the most powerful spells, magic items, even artifacts are at their disposal, and there's very little that they can't do. Their political influence stretches far and wide, even across the plains, and many people across the world have almost assuredly heard of their exploits. Like most people will have heard about them. So, when you create adventures for this tier, you need to ratchet up the scope to the highest level. Failure likely means the end of the world as they know it. For instance, Tiamat's Abishai armies have opened multiple portals across the realms and are pouring forth. The heroes must travel to the palace of Tiamat herself on Avernus, the first layer of the 9 hells, to confront Tiamat herself. Or the heroes are dealing not with one ancient dragon, but a flight of dragons, leaving a swath of destruction across the world. Now's the time to bust out the biggest and nastiest baddies you can find in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes and the Monster Manual. It's no holds bars. No holds barred. No holds barred. And really go to an effort here to focus on fantastic locations and environments. Use the different planes of existence. Use cities in the clouds. Make things feel truly epic. Now, before we talk about how to adjust the power of high-level campaigns, I want to thank my awesome patrons over on Patreon for helping choose the topic of this week's video. In particular, I want to thank Javkov, Estrogen, The Old DM, Ron H., Andre B., Sale R., Simon, Phoenix Brian, Dresna, Ryan, Cassides, Watuza, and OND. Thank you so much for helping support all the D&D content I create. All right, power adjustments. So, as the PCs progress in levels and you move into the higher tiers of play, your players are going to be getting access to more and more power. That's just the way the game works. So they're gonna get better PC abilities, spells, and even magic items. Now, I would love to tell you that you have nothing to worry about, that the challenge rating system has you covered, but I'd be lying. Besides using higher CR monsters, there's also a number of other things you're going to have to do, and I don't think they're mentioned in the Dungeon Master Guide either. These are things that you either learned the hard way, by screwing up and fixing your mistakes, or from other experienced dungeon masters who make videos and tell you about them. So I'm gonna go over 6 things I've personally learned from running campaigns at higher levels. Number 1, the encounter building rules are messed up. It doesn't take long for a dungeon master to figure this out. Let's just be honest. In fact, the challenge rating system gets worse and worse as your players level up. Around level 12 or so, it's almost worthless depending on your group and their personal level of power, which depends on things about like how min-maxed they are and how many crazy magic items you've decided to give them. You're gonna have to start tweaking the challenge of your encounters from a little bit to a lot. For instance, with my Sword Coast Guard group and my Hand of Light group, I knew that these higher levels, I could throw encounters at them that were 4 times over the deadly threshold, and they'd be fine. I also discovered that when there was a high-level paladin in the group, everything became so much easier for my players. Like cakewalk. So I learned to ramp stuff up a lot when there was a paladin in the group, even doing things like increasing the DCs of saving throws, whatever I needed to make sure that things still remained at the appropriate challenge level for my players. But I arrived on this based on my experience with my players and learning what they could and couldn't do. So you'll need to pay attention and be sensitive to this yourself for your own players and what they are capable of doing and what they can't do, because some players aren't. The thing is that the power of different groups diverges so much in the higher levels that there is not solid and fast rules that anyone can really give you for how to balance the game. I'd like to think that if it were possible, the game designers would have done it. Like, I really want to trust that they would have done it if it were possible. I hope my trust isn't misplaced. Number 2, constantly adjust the game as the PCs gain power and levels. As the PCs level up and get access to more powerful abilities and spells, you'll need to be on the lookout for ways you'll need to adjust your game in response to these. For instance, when they gain access to Fireball, large mobs of mooks will no longer be challenging to them at all. When the Battle Master fighter wielding hand crossbows gets the crossbow expert and sharpshooter feats and starts using trip attack to knock every flying enemy out of the sky, well, you know that flying enemies need new tricks up their sleeves, such as the hover ability. And this is a never-ending task that you'll need to be doing as the Dungeon Master, seeking ways to keep challenging your players' characters even as they get stronger and stronger abilities. But honestly, this is a big part of the fun too. This is where you can employ your intelligence and cunning to develop new encounters or types of enemies that will throw a curveball at your players. This is like the ongoing fantasy arms battle, the arms race, where the Dungeon Master and the players are engaged in racing and trying to keep up with each other and one-up each other. As one gets more power, the other one has to figure out how they deal with it. The players gain levels and the Dungeon Master throws bigger challenges their way, customized for their characters. And at this point, someone will be like, "But Luke, you're nerfing the PC's abilities when you tweak things in response to their specific abilities and spells." And to this, I respond, no, I'm not. I'm just keeping the game appropriately challenging and customizing those challenges for their characters instead of just mindlessly inflating hit points, DPS, and armor classes. Like, if you want to play a game like that, I recommend any number of computer games such as World of Warcraft. Of course, a point worth bringing up as well is not to overdo it, because if you go too far with this idea that I'm suggesting, then you are starting to negate every new thing your players can do. And that's not cool either. So there is a middle ground here. There is a balance that you want to strike as you go about doing this. Number 3. Bad guys aren't idiots. Something else to remember as you design adventures for the higher levels. Powerful villains often don't become powerful or stay powerful for long by being complete imbeciles. Even if they don't have book smarts, they have street smarts. This means they anticipate the abilities and spells and magic items that powerful adventurers might have access to. Powerful villains prepare to confront PCs with counterspell, summoning spells, and teleport. They might expect the PCs to use rope trick or similar magic to take a rest while raiding their compound. They'll be on the lookout for PCs trying to sneak into their dungeons with invisibility or under magical disguises. And good villains will give their minions important instructions, such as, if a group of people arrive and try to convince you that they work for me and want you to take them directly to me, and I haven't told you to expect them, attack immediately. I don't care if they roll a nat 20 on their deception check. Just trust me, attack them. I know every player ever has tried to use that technique. It's like, why wouldn't villains have given their minions warnings that this is going to happen? It's so clearly obvious. It's kind of like how every parent tells their children, if a stranger comes up to you and says that to get into the car because their mommy or daddy is hurt, you don't just get in the car. Okay, rant's over. But every player, I guess the rant's not over, but every player has this clever, they try to use this and it's just like, no, that's not gonna work. Can't work that way every time. A word of caution, however, be careful not to anticipate and compensate so much that you completely negate anything and everything your players' characters can do. If you take it too far, then it will indeed start to steal the fun out of the game. The goal is to roleplay good villains, not perfect and all-powerful villains. Number 4, improvise on the fly. The fact of the matter is this. As the Dungeon Master, you can't plan everything in advance. So be ready to improvise during a game session in response to your players. For instance, let's say that you foolishly made a dungeon without any doors, and now your wizard has his arcane eye flying through every room, scouting out the entire dungeon. Okay, then bam, you have there be doors put throughout the rest of the dungeon. Problem solved. Tangent here. Being able to scout out the entire dungeon in advance is actually ruining the fun for many gamers in your group, many players in your group who enjoy exploration and they enjoy the mystery. When you can, in the first 5 minutes of a game, determine what's in every single room, where all the bad guys are, and what everything is, that ruins the fun for many of the players at your table, like big time. And so that is why, in that particular example, that's actually a problem. It's a problem at a meta level. And anyway, that's a topic for a different video, perhaps, or a live stream. Or let's say you designed the villain to be this super powerful, epic vampire who rules his own demiplane, and you, like a complete moron, gave your players 3 powerful magic items, practically artifacts, that would allow them to essentially one-shot the vampire, turning this epic boss fight into a huge letdown. However, you don't realize it until round 1 of the combat. Okay, great. So you start tweaking that vampire right then and there. Give him some abilities that allow him to not die right away and mount a resistance. The Holy Avenger slices him in twain and he bursts into a cloud of bats and reforms nearby without a wound upon him. And he continues fighting. Now your players are panicking and discussing what the heck is going on and what they should do. And while they do that, you're figuring out what adjustments you're going to make to the Vampire Lord. Here's the thing. There is basically no difference between adding doors to the dungeon before the game starts or during the game. And there is no difference between buffing the vampire before the game and during the game. From your player's point of view, it's the same dungeon either way. It's the same vampire either way. About illusion. And right about now, someone is freaking out on me, typing a furiously angry comment down there about how that's cheating and that I'm a horrible, horrible, very bad man. And that's fair. I won't fight you on that. I am a pretty pathetic person and horrible dungeon master. But let me say this. While you are TPKing your groups in every other game session, or your boss fights are dramatic letdowns because you refuse to cheat, I'll be over here running amazing games where my players have tons of fun. And if you feel that's cheating, then I'm happy to be a cheater. Pro tip though, it's not cheating. You see, the Dungeon Master is not a player. The Dungeon Master is not beholden to all your little rules. We Dungeon Masters have the responsibility of running awesome games for our players, and I'll do whatever I need to do to make sure that happens. Number 5, focus on good encounter design. At low levels, you might be able to get away with just plopping some monsters into the middle of the room and calling it a day. However, at higher levels, you really got to do a whole lot better than that. You need to start using terrain, waves, environmental effects, and other elements to improve your combat encounters. This does 2 things. First, it makes the encounters more challenging, but second, it makes the encounters far more interesting and fun for your players. Now, I won't go into too many details here because I have an entire encounter building playlist with videos about how to improve your encounters. There's a link down below for you, in fact. Number 6, high-level PCs are practically unkillable. You see, even death has little meaning for PCs unless it's a TPK. At high levels, PCs have access to raise dead, resurrection, and even reincarnation. That's a fun one, by the way. Yay, turtles. So don't be afraid to throw crazy challenges at your players. Make them earn their legendary magic items. And the same applies to high-level bad guys too. I mean, why couldn't that villain they killed yesterday have been resurrected and be gathering new forces? Make your players use their brains to permanently get rid of villains they defeat. If PCs can come back from the dead, so can bad guys. If you're looking for a monthly PDF stuffed with Dungeon Master resources, such as magic items, interesting NPCs, and entire D&D adventures, don't forget to check out my Patreon. The monthly PDF is just one of the many benefits my patrons receive. Next week, I'll be doing an entire video while standing on my head, but until then, click right here to binge on my encounter building playlist. And until next time, let's play D&D.